Y'all know the real reasons why people got promoted. Y'all would stop comparing yourself to these folks and really be looking at them with these jaundiced eyeballs. I'm trying to get y'all to look at these people at. Because not all promotions are created equal, and you are doing an amazing job. But if you knew so many ways that people get promoted, you'd be looking around these places like, wait, huh? And this is part 3. I'm now doing this 3 times because there's this many ways that people get promoted, and honestly more. So let me know if you want me to keep doing these. My name is Beverly Dines. I'm a chief operating officer having scaled operations for over a decade and in over 6 fields. And this first one's a sleepover promo. You tell me what they doing. You tell me. It's a sleepover promotion. Okay? So you're sitting at your desk, you're like, wow, I can't help but notice that so-and-so just got promoted. And I did notice that they were hanging out with leadership a lot. Maybe they just like them. Maybe they like them a lot. They like them a lot. And they like them too. They're liking each other a lot after hours. Okay? So unless you want to be doing these sleepovers as well, and listen, get your bag. But unless you want to be doing that, don't compare yourself, okay? Because they twisting and turning all kind of things, and good for them, but also that has nothing to do with you. Okay. Now, this next one is what I call the gardener, because they're planting seeds, but not in a good way. Your person who's maybe sitting next to you, they're like, hey, I noticed, I want to ask you a quick question. My supervisor asked me about my role, and it, mentioned I've been here a while, and maybe that I didn't seem as happy. Have you felt that? Have you seen that? And you might go, oh my God, no, but you have been here a while. Have you thought about that next step? And now this person's gaslighting themselves, and they don't know why they're gaslighting themselves. They just know that, recently their supervisor's been planting little seeds. Why are they planting those seeds, y'all? Because they got a friend who is sitting back there waiting to fertilize. And so they have no clue that they're actually being ushered out so that they can bring somebody in. But you're like, oh, well, okay, maybe I am, tapped out. Maybe I should try something different. What is that? What could that be? Right. And so then what happens? That person leaves because they're like, I'm going to go off to better, which they did. And then here comes out of nowhere this next person. So you're sitting at your desk like, well, shoot, I wanted to be promoted. Like, where did this person come from? That person's been fertilizing that soil behind the scenes with that leader for months sometimes. And if they truly feel like they came out of nowhere, trust, they've been fertilizing that soil for who knows how long and doing whatever dances they need to behind the scenes to get that person out is, in my opinion, one of the slimiest ways to get somebody into an organization. And honestly, good on that person who wound up leaving, because you don't need gaslighters either. This next one is what I'm going to call the Union Buster promo. This is specific to places that have unions. Maybe you have somebody on your team who's a bit of an outspoken person. They really are passionate about maintaining the integrity of the union, but also they are on top of their game. Their metrics are great. They're great with the team. They're great. So then all of a sudden, the organization offers them a promotion. They're like, you know what? You are honestly such a great representative of the organization. I really, we appreciate how much you fight for the employee experience. We want to promote you to management. And then they move them over to administration. What does that do? You're sitting and maybe you're in the union. You're like, oh man, this person got promoted. I've been fighting for the union too. I've been doing everything I could be doing. But suddenly, is that person sitting in that seat 3 months later? Have there suddenly been some metrics that they weren't meeting or issues that they have uncovered? Which is why I call it the Union Buster, because it is a effective way that slimy people get folks out of their security nets and then figure out ways to get them out of that seat. So while you're sitting there comparing, you have no clue that that person's being set up and out. This next one is what I call the take one for the team promo. It is specific to people who constantly allow themselves to be taking the jobs that nobody wants to do. Everyone's like, oh, they'll take care of it. They'll take care of it. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. Now, and sometimes that makes sense, but a lot of times it doesn't. And when this person's constantly doing 37 million people other jobs, and especially the grunt jobs that even leaders don't want to do, while they toss it to this person. Again, you're sitting at your desk, you're doing it, you're killing it, you're meeting your metrics, and all of a sudden you see this person's promoted. You're like, what? They don't even like what they're doing over there. That's exactly the point. It's exactly the point. If you'll take one for the team, how about you take 2? How about you take 5? How about you take 20 for the team? Yes, keep doing that. It's reinforcement for them doing what they don't need to be doing, but frankly, thinking that they are networking or are doing things the right way, when in reality, they're allowing themselves to be the dumping ground for the stuff that these leaders don't want to do, and they'll happily reward that. So unless you want to do that, redirection, okay? This next one is what I'm going to call the bottleneck promo. This is specifically to people who have usually been at the company for a long time, or they have established a niche for themselves at the company. And because they've established that niche, they are now a bottleneck, which means that other departments are consistently relying on this person. Now, what makes that difficult, right, is that if that person leaves, what's going to happen to that infrastructure? is gonna go. So this person is doing their thing, doing whatever. Again, you're looking over at them like, dang, like, I just feel like I'm plugging in everywhere. I'm doing great. Yeah, you are doing great. And that person has figured out a way to wedge themselves into a bottleneck so that everybody at the company is relying on them for 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 things. But usually those things are super critical. And so they are promoted because if they leave, it's going to be a situation. This next one is what I call the taken promo. It's specific to somebody who has a particular set of skills. Remember that phone call? So depending on what the company needs at that particular time, here comes this person. They might have only been there a month, 2 months, maybe not even that long. And suddenly they're like, shoot, we need somebody on this team who knows how to do X. And they're like, actually, I have extensive experience doing X. And boom, they're promoted. So again, you're sitting at that desk like, what? I've been here this whole time. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. And this person got, yes, they had a particular set of skills and they were going to find that problem. Okay. So because they know that they can execute on them, they're going to promote that person fast. And unfortunately, that feels really bad when you've been hustling, you've been doing your thing. But sometimes that happens too, where it's like they going to take it and then they're going to tear that department up. Because usually when that happens, there's a big problem. Rejection is redirection and comparison is a thief of joy. I promise you, there are so many different reasons why people get promoted and all these weird political ways and sneaky ways and all this stuff that sometimes truly you are being guided away from things that might otherwise not serve you. And so when you have that inclination to compare yourself to somebody else's situation, there's some situations, you heard there's some situations you don't want. And so put that into perspective when you're thinking about what that next step is in your career. Find that recognition within yourself. But at the end of the day, sometimes to grow up, you have to what? Grow out. And so if you're seeing people be promoted all around you for whatever reason, maybe take that as a sign for you to go to a place where they're going to celebrate you proactively and respectfully, because you deserve it and you deserve to be celebrated in the capacity that is earnest, and with the dang work that you're doing and not have to play all these games. So please trust you're doing an amazing job, and let me know if you want a part 4.
One thing that executives look for during performance review season that may surprise you, and I'm going to tell you so that you don't get caught up. Hi, my name is Beverly. I'm a COO and your Chief Empowerment Officer. Y'all, do not complain when you get a performance review that you do not like. Our word travels so fast at companies, and I cannot tell you how many times I have worked alongside and have experienced myself when an employee has not really appreciated their performance review. Instead of coming directly to me or even talking to their direct supervisor, if I'm above their direct supervisor, they tell everybody else how angry they are. Instead of operating from a place of empowerment where you're saying to yourself, okay, is this somewhere where I want to stay? Or is there somewhere I can plug in and just continue to develop here? Without realizing it, people now know that you're angry, and that always gets back to your boss. It always does. So where your boss might have actually worked with you to help you move forward on the professional development trail, or at minimum been a reference for you, depending on their pettiness level and depending on their overall maturity as an adult, they may take it away. And now you have an adversary where you might have had a neutral party. Make sure that you are taking that home to all the way home. And when